Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we will be discussing, analyzing, and reviewing There Is No Antimemetics Division by Quantum. We are currently fundraising for Code Pink, so check out the link in our bio. FBI, we're just joking. Definitely not Hasanabis. Just ignore that. Anyways, for more content outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LitLibPodcast. I'm your co-host, Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host, Kristen. You can find me at TensTBR on all social media platforms. So this was our May Fable Book Club read. So we did read this over on Fable. Link in the description if you would like to read next month's book with us or any future books with us. But this one, I would say, I think the ratings were mostly high in the book club, but we did have a few people that I don't know if they actually DNF'd but they said that they were looking towards DNFing it too. But the people that finished it, they seem to have really loved it. And then I guess some people hated it enough to DNF too. So there wasn't much a unanimous decision, I think, in the book club.
Did we get a new result? It has an average of 4-star ratings with 5 ratings for our book club, which, I mean, that's a very small sample size, but it kind of is on par with what it received on Goodreads so far, which is a 4.05 star average with 40,000 ratings and 6.7 thousand written reviews. And I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but 4-star book so far that the public's receiving. What I didn't know about this book is that it was originally indie published in 2020, and it was November of last year when it got trad published.
Oh, well, I did see, I saw, whenever I was reading the acknowledgments for this book, I think it was serialized first, where I guess whatever on his website or whatever, wherever he was writing this, I think he was releasing it through like a website first before it was like culminated into this book. And just a fair warning for like anybody listening to this, Mariah and I are not big like SCP fans. Like Mariah knows more than I do, but again, it's not like we were like doing in-depth research to read this book either. Like it was just very much like what we've heard about SCPs and like passing and like the vague understanding of it, rather than us being like, oh, we read all of like the SCP articles, we watch all the videos or whatever it is. That's not us. We're not in that camp. Where
No, I was like a creepypasta like in high school and middle school. Like creepypasta was something that I was into because I didn't know about AO3. Had I known about AO3, I probably would have been an AO3 girly. I think it's been around for a really long time.
But it wasn't like mainstream like that. Because like, I mean, like obviously like I read a couple creepypastas and stuff in like middle school and high school, and I was big in the fan fiction realm. But like AO3 like just gained popularity, like mainstream popularity, probably like during COVID time, where before that I think like fanfiction.net or like Wattpad were like the main ones. Not that I used either of those. I was on a worse website. But yeah. But I was never into like SCP. I still don't fully comprehend it. Because from my understanding, it's just like basically like the whole thing is like a prison for beings that don't fit in our plain earthlings understanding. And each like SCP gets its own little like document about like what it is, why it's locked up, whether or not it's dangerous. And that's it. That's all my understanding is.
I honestly think the reason that like the SCP and the way it functions exists is because there was just so many different like internet lore things, especially on like 4chan, because if you went on the supernatural page, you could just scroll and scroll and scroll, and people just write these really crazy stories, and that's like kind of where like Slenderman and the Rake and whatnot originated from. It's just like these posts, or like YouTube, back like original YouTube. So I feel like having the serial number attached to these creatures, people could add to the lore, and it just made it easier to sort through because 4chan is not easy to navigate. So they were able to make like their own wiki, and they called it like the SCP Foundation. And they just kept track of them there, and it's very like Lovecraftian. A lot of them seem to be along that line. So it's interesting to see like where it's coming from, and especially like I heard like 4 years ago, my oldest son, he was talking about SCPs and like all of the ones connected, which I learned that his favorite one is some Play-Doh SCP. He like pulled it straight up. He's like, oh, it's SCP this, and it's some Play-Doh, militant Play-Doh SCP. It's so weird. Like there's just so much shit for everything.
Yeah, but I know this is like, it's SCP, but then like because it's been traditionally published too, it's not quite the same, because instead of being an SCP, I think they use like unknowns or whatever for the label in this book specifically, rather than like in real life if you're looking up a certain SCP, you're typing SCP dash, where even so I saw some people were talking about like some of the specific SCP numbers that are used in this book, they do match up with like the SCP number, but then some don't either. So he has like creative liberty for some of it.
I think it's
I don't know if
because
that's copyrighted or anything like that.
No, I don't think it's copyrighted. Quantum, which his real name is Sam Hughes, was one of the original like people that created SCP content on the wiki. Like he helped write, I think he helped create the anti-meme thing. So like this was like his creation, because I was looking, I was like, who is this guy? Like what does he do? And that was kind of like part of the project, with him being, I think he was a software, he's in it, technology.
Yeah, I think so.
I was trying to find more information about him, but there's not a whole lot on him. But I did see that he, one, created this website called Absurdle, which is like Wordle, but where every time you guess a word, the word changes.
Oh.
So it's like, it's so not something I would want to do. And they also created a Flash game called Hatris, which is like evil Tetris. And it always gives you the worst piece for the situation that you're in, which apparently was inspired by I have no mouth, but I need to scream. Don't quote me on that. I was doing like research on it today, but it seems like there's some parallel, but I didn't want to spoil that book for myself because I want to read it. So just letting you know. He also is very against AI. I did learn that the SCP project, they are against having any sort of AI put into it. And I will link the blog post, which is also linked on the author's bio or description, because I was trying to figure out more about him. And it just had this link in a little blurb from this article he wrote, which apparently some open AI guy was having like psychosis. So people were like, is this an SCP? Is this SCP? Is ChatGPT SCP? And
no.
He was like, no. It was really funny. He like goes through all of the depths and he's like, no.
Yeah.
So if you want to read that, I did see and I watched, there's a short adaptation of this novel. It's not like, it's like the first couple of chapters on YouTube by a YouTuber named Dust. So if you kind of want to get like the essence of what this is, but you don't want to know like everything, I think you could go and watch it. It's kind of cool. It's pretty true to what the first little bit is.
You don't know anything about this book. Imagine it's like Doctor Who, The Silence, that villain, or like, so basically anytime you look away from the certain villain entity, whatever you want to call it, it kind of like this whole like division like alters your memories and stuff, because the idea of like a memetic is that like it's an idea that's spreading, whether it's controlled spreading by like the being itself or spreading like intentionally and violently to cause the most harm. There's a lot of different entities that you're following in this one, but there's kind of like a main one that like alters with your memory. And so like regular people will forget certain instances that happen. It's kind of like if it's not in your line of sight, it doesn't affect you. You can't see it. And then like the second you look away, you forget everything about it. But you kind of end up following. It's kind of like vignette style, but you're kind of have this overarching story. But then each like chapter, you're kind of following a different character and what it's about. It's a really unique novel. I can't really say that I've read anything exactly like it. I think the vibe it's kind of closest to is How to Lose the Time War by those people. I'm sure Mariah can put the book up. I don't remember who it's by, which we did review on the podcast forever ago. But I think this has a little bit less of like that purple prosiness that like How to Lose the Time War does. But this is still, in my opinion, a lot of purple prose.
I think if you go into this, just know that you're probably going to be confused. And I think that's okay. And if you think that you're not going to be confused, it's like a resounding thing. Like you have to just enjoy the confusion. And I just don't know that I am somebody that enjoyed this type of ambiguity and confusion and research into it because will say it has a non-linear storytelling and you won't really be able to pick up on it because there's no dates associated with anything. It's just context clues, but also kind of really weird naming of characters where like they have the same name. I don't know why that was chosen. We'll get into all of the ins and outs of it, but ultimately this is a maybe. This might be for you. I will read anything else that this author comes out with because if this is like the first big book to get other published, works on Goodreads. I did see that, but this is like, this is like the one. This is in the spotlight, so I'm curious what's going to come after this because I think the social commentary in here has some real potential. It's just the execution on it that's just not my favorite.
I don't know if I agree. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like mad that I read this book. Like, I'm not like, ugh. But I do think I feel like it's a victim of being overhyped. Because I feel like at least a couple months ago and like even now, like everybody and their mother was like talking about how crazy and weird this book is. And it is crazy and weird, but it's not like it wasn't something that I was like really drawn to reading. I didn't necessarily enjoy the writing style. I thought it was too confusing, and I can appreciate a confusing book sometimes, but this is one of those where I felt like I was confused and the payoff wasn't worth it for me and what I like to enjoy in my storytelling. And I think the commentary, there was a little bit of it, but I just, like, to me, it was too broad, where I kind of prefer it to be a lot more nuanced than what was here. It's also British.
It's important to acknowledge. It is
very British. Like, if
that being said, I do think that like House of Leaves made more sense to me than this.
Well, I haven't read House of Leaves.
If that's any sort of like litmus, if you have read it, they do have very similar like weird formatting that I did enjoy, but the non-linear storytelling and then just like some of the technical issues and the repetition, it is rather repetitive.
Yes.
Those kind of held back my views. I have a lot to say about obviously this is a fucking political Marxist literary criticism podcast. Oh my god, we're gonna talk about politics and not just the characters and the characters' decisions.
Just talk about the book. If y'all are new here, we just got a comment on our last episode, by the way. Dungeon Crawler Carl of all books, Parade of Horribles. Just talk about the book.
I need to look and see if I can see what minute or second that was commented in, because sometimes it says
they get rid of that. Yeah, they have to say what comment. Like,
I thought it said like, oh, they commented at this time.
No,
damn.
But I think with the themes of this book, like personally, I read Dark Matter last year, and I really, really enjoyed Dark Matter. And the Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I think one of the themes, like not all of the same things, like this is not 1-to-1, but it is science fiction, and then Dark Matter also does have some of the similar things about like love will prevail, I think is like one of the major, like, it tries to be a major theme in this, but to me it doesn't work well in this. Versus in Dark Matter, I think that theme works a lot better. And I would say read Dark Matter over this. If you could only read one of those two books, like, I would say read Dark Matter over this too. Not that they're exactly the same, but I do think that the storytelling for Dark Matter works better. But it's like, it's not the same exact, like, I would not say they're one-to-one comparisons or even like talking about the same like style, but I just think the love will prevail, and like humans always like doing what they can. I think it works better, and even other science fiction novels rather than this. I just think the themes were there, they just didn't push the envelope in any way, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we'll get into it in the spoiler zone. So if you haven't read this book and you want to read it and you were on the fence, I say maybe. Kristen says no. So take that with a grain of salt, and we are going to enter. I wish I had like the blaring sirens, like a soundboard. The spoiler zone.
You can add that in post.
I could, but I don't. I don't know. I'd have to find it. Maybe if you're listening to this and there was sound effects,
you'll know.
I figured it out.
Well, okay. So early on, I don't know if we can talk about this necessarily linearly in the way that it's told. I know the story's non-linear in the book, but I meant like linearly, like along with it. Just because I feel like the way this book was written, because it was so confusing, that like, I don't know if we can keep on the same timeline. Like, I feel like we might have to go more like character by character.
Yeah, that's kind of, I ended up having to like go back through and like look. I was like, okay, who exactly are the characters that we want to spend a lot of time? And there's two main ones, right? It's Marie and Adam Quinn.
Yes,
they're married,
husband and wife,
and you basically like the first, I don't know, 40% of the book is Marie's perspective, and then the last
60.
What, 30-ish?
Well, 40% is her.
Maybe.
I think it's mostly his at the end. I think he does end up having more of a perspective. I would say the first half leans Marie Quinn's perspective, and then the latter half leans Adam Quinn's perspective, which, in my opinion, I think it was this book's downfall. I think Marie was a much better main character to root for, in my opinion. It was like almost like, I felt like she felt like Strat from like Project Hail Mary, the lady. She like,
I can definitely see that.
Like, seeing her perspective, because she's all about, she's getting shit done, you know?
I honestly think if this had been told in a linear, it would have been a lot stronger. I think that was part of the confusion too, is like Marie would be doing things, and sometimes I could tell it was a reflection upon the past, because Marie Quinn is the director of the anti-meme division, right?
Yes.
And she's like constantly going through stuff or doing things, and sometimes you don't really know why or when it's happening.
Yes.
And it's really frustrating. So when we're talking about these characters and when we're doing this review, I had to look up, I had to go on Reddit, and I found an official, on the SCP website, a timeline. So if you are confused, I will have it linked, because same. And I had to look at it, and it kind of made more sense of what was happening. And then also the ending of this book, I think it made more sense.
I didn't care enough to learn, because I don't think...
we were filming this today, so I was like, I have to figure something out to make this work.
I don't think you should have to have supplementary text to read a fiction novel. That might be my hot take. Nonfiction's a different story. Nonfiction, I understand having different books to references and stuff. A fiction book, he should have put that timeline in the front of the book if it was that important to the story.
I think it would have made it make more sense.
Or even at the end of it, like after you finish it, then you could look back at the timeline. That would have worked better. That's what it does in We Are Bob. There's like a timeline at the end, which it does have spoilers in it, but it helps you contextualize the story, because that is another like sci-fi that's kind of all over the place with time. But I think with that, it needs that. Unless it's going to be linear, total in a linear fashion, which this is not.
Not at all.
No.
Sorry, it's hard to like talk, because I'm trying to think of how to introduce this. Because there was this really nice line
The one
very
line.
early on in the book, and I'm trying to remember precisely when this is happening.
It happens. So basically, what this part is whenever we're at the point, because again, this is not linear. So then it's the old director of anti-memetics. He's on his deathbed, and basically, what they do after you reach a certain age, you retire. They basically they're like, okay, you're cooked. You can't have any memories of the memetic divisions because we're so underground and secretive that you won't know anything. But then, like, your last 12 hours you're alive, we're going to take you and inject you with this memory serum, and you're going to tell us what you remember from before you have memories, basically. And then, like, she's on this, like, boat in the middle of nowhere with, like, the old director, and then she's like, tell me what you know about the anti-memetics division, because the problem is with where they're at with the current anti-memetics division, they know that there was stuff that happened in the past, but they have no information on it, and that nobody's memory goes back that far either. So they know something big had to have happened for everyone to lose their memories, specifically. And so then this guy, the old director, he's like telling the history of the first bomb they made, because they were like making a bomb to stop the spread the Nazi ideology. Because what are any of these anti-memes within the story are basically like, they could be like harmful philosophies or even just like harmful monsters. It's all the same in the SCP world, apparently.
Yeah, it's like it's functioning as a placeholder. It could be anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it starts off, and I think it gives you. That's why this line is said that, like, oh, the Soviets won World War II, to give you some sort of insight on precisely what the anti-meme could be a placeholder for, which I thought was interesting because anytime we read any sort of like Western novels, even though England is in the West, I get that. Like, specifically, sorry, an American novel, is that nobody acknowledges that the United States did not defeat fascism. They did not win the war. And there's a lot of reasons for it, and the more I think about it, the more like frustrating it, because like the utility of positing the US as being the winners, like defeaters of fascism, was so that they could kind of disseminate fascism, but like their brand.
Well, because that's the thing, is that like in American propaganda too, like the way that the Americans joined the war, we're taught that like basically we were randomly bombed by Japan with Pearl Harbor, and then that's why we like decided like, oh, we can't have that happen, so that's why we joined the Allies. When in reality, like, the government was doing different things within the war without being directly doing it, like the blockade they put on like Japan and stuff, which is why Pearl Harbor ended up getting bombed, and that's the only reason why the United States is entered, was as a reaction, not out of the kindness of their hearts to stop fascism either, like it is portrayed in a lot of American schooling. And this is just like one of those examples where it's like, oh, in other countries they actually learned that like the Soviet Union was doing all the work, like, because the Soviet Union, they lost millions and millions of people before the United States is even like, maybe we should help.
Yeah, but like the US likes to be like, actually, Stalin was working with Hitler, even though it was a non-aggression pact. Given what like the Soviet Union had undergone with World War One, there was so much, like they were so economically like disenfranchised, and they were having so much happen with the world. But in reality, I think it was a line. So there's this article. If you'd like to read it, it's called "The U.S. Did Not Defeat Fascism in World War II. It discreetly internalized it, or internationalized it, not internalized." And they did do that too.
Yes.
But that's what the article is called. And there's a quote in there that's really good that says, "Far from being eradicated at the end of World War II, was actually repurposed, or rather redeployed, to serve its primary historical function, to destroy godless communism and its threat to the capitalist civilizing mission. Since the colonial projects of Hitler and Mussolini had been so brazen and erratic, as they shifted from playing more or less by the liberal rules of the game to openly breaking them and then running amok. It was understood that the best way to construct the fascist international was to do so under the liberal cover, meaning that through clandestine operations that maintained a liberal facade. And one of the actors in this is Alan Dooley's, and you're gonna hear him a lot. He is like a Henry Kissinger fellow, and he was this fucking piece of shit CIA head director. God, it was a public toilet. Go to this man's toilet. Go to his grave. But he oversaw projects like Operation Ajax in Iran in the 1950s, where the Western powers won in oil. Operation PB Success in Guatemala in the 1950s, which was because of United Fruit Co. and coffee. This is like where like the La Violencia started. If you want to read a book about it, Still Life of Bones talks about what happened in Guatemala. There was also MK Ultra. He helped spearhead that, which if you want a book about that, you could read Chaos. And then also the Bay of fucking Pigs. Like, he was doing the fucking worst. Like, he is an awful person. And then towards the end, like, of the World War II or whatever, like before all of this happened, right? Because that happened after World War II, is where they started just like bringing in the Nazis into
Operation
the United
Paperclip,
States. So
where
there's
the
some
high-ranking
really
Nazis
fucking crazy things.
They got turned into governmental officials for the United States rather than facing the wall like they should have been.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So like the fact that this was like inserted very early on kind of gives you some idea that this is going to be a lot more of like a speculative fiction novel, but because of its nonlinear storytelling, it kind of obscures the social commentary at its core, which is like, how do you kill an idea that is so harmful, where people will forget their humanity, like, essentially, because like what is happening with these SCPs is like it steals your memory, but also it's kind of like turning them into something else. And I think it works like fascism, but at the same time, it's really confusing how it's written. So like I'm having to do a lot of stretching to make these leaps. But that's how I took it. I think that's how it was intended, but it just wasn't strong.
Well, because I think one thing too with the way that memories function just within themselves, and then how like people view memories and stuff. Like, I know Mariah works, if you don't know, Mariah works with a lot of elderly people and memory care specifically, and a lot of this is like a metaphor for like losing that memory and stuff, because I mean one of the central themes is like with the Quinns both losing their memories of each other and whether or not love will still prevail, and are you the same person if you don't have those memories that you had once before too, because your memories are what shape you as a person, if you really think about it, you know, like how you act and how you take things in is based on what your past and different experiences are, and how you learn and how you choose to learn. And I think this tries to do that. Again, this is another thing that it tries to do. And maybe if it was a stronger writer and it wasn't like a debut like passion project where it was like a traditional author, it might have worked better. But that's just another one of those themes that I just feel like it's like so surface level. There's no meat on it. You're just stuck in the bone marrow.
Yeah, like that's where like the element of like love prevails, because like despite forgetting and like fighting to remember something that's just like such a big part of your life, you forget it. It also works like on the other side, where you have people in the American consciousness that have forgotten the atrocities that have been committed. So like that's why people are always like, oh, like what side of history were you on? Like, go ask your grandpa like what was happening, because a lot of like your grandparents are gonna remember like the civil rights movements or like all of that. And it's really interesting like how people forget like it's not that far away. Like you can ask your grandparents like where they were and what they were doing, how they were working during these times.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's meant as like a social, like a big picture, like how can like the global consciousness forget things like that, like it being scapegoated as being like this SCP that just eats your memories, and you have to like work together, like humanity has to prevail to destroy it. But then having like this weird like bootstrap paradox where like Adam has to go on his own even though he's not like trained, and then work as like this lifeline, this memory line to bring back
the
Marie?
guy at the end. No, well, because like,
but
yes.
also not
Well, because like
That's where it gets confusing.
It brings back her memory, and then her memory is able to solve, or like because I don't even think it ever like you don't really know what happens like at the very end either. Like, do they solve it? We don't really know, you know. But like he's there to give that opportunity for like Marie to solve it, and again, that's why I think we should have just stuck with Marie the whole time. Like, I don't care that Adam could remember because of some gene that he had. But he obviously couldn't even remember
give a fuck about the mysterious Ed Hicks that kind of gets his own little point of view for a moment.
And then I think Sunshine was really underdeveloped too, where I thought that was going to be like something cool, and then it was just like nothing.
It just was.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know what to say because like I thought about it and it was like an afterthought.
Yeah, well, because like it's like the author needed something to push the story along without having like too much like plot convenience. But then it's like Sunshine was there, but like Sunshine was like also like low-key pointless. Like it was just like a weird thing. And what pissed me off, like genuinely in this book, the random redactedness of it. Like I understand like the whole SCP thing, like you go to the website and some stuff is redacted. Why was this redacting like the regular story that's happening?
I don't know, because I had to like go back through and look because I thought at one point I could not push myself to read this any faster. We had a lot going on already with trying to finish like A Prey to Horribles, and then I'm trying to like get through this. So I got the audiobook. Audiobook is great. However, there was like this part in the book where he's combating the SCP and like
you get like
90% of it is gone.
Nothing.
And I don't really know why. I don't know what it was supposed to be revealing. Like, I don't know if the intention of this book, because it doesn't really like tell you like this is classified information. Like, at least it could give readers that, because if I knew that the entirety if it was like a retelling was supposed to be, I think this would have functioned a lot better if it was like almost like a found footage.
Yeah, like almost like Good Girls Guide to Murder, together. Where like there's like interviews chopped in and like the documents chopped in, because there are like random like documents and stuff, and I think those worked well for being redacted. But like I'm telling you, like you'll be reading like the story and it'll be like something happened, but then it gets redacted, and I'm like, I don't really understand the purpose of, like, it'll just be like one word in the middle of a sentence sometimes redacted too, and it's like, what is this doing?
I don't know. And I think like after you've read like House of Leaves and you have like this standard for what something can be when it has like this really unconventional formatting, where it has like this appendix where you can go reference it and there's actual like references or like evidence in it that you can read through. I like the attempt, what was here, and I don't want to dissuade other authors from doing it. If you're watching this,
don't try if you suck.
I didn't hate it. I just was really confused and frustrated because I think it had so much potential, and the way people talk about it is like, this is...
Maybe we don't have galaxy brains like other people do.
I tried doing this garden. I tried reading it in the sun. I tried reading it before bed. I tried doing
sober, so I don't even have an excuse.
I try to like, give it the benefit of the doubt. I was like, I'll try it in different environments in my brain, and it just like, it didn't. I think it was better left, probably. This is like the thing I think we're going to be seeing a lot coming in the next couple of years, is that there's these people that are really good writers when they're doing something short like this. I agree. We had a reviewer in the book club who said that this should have been a short story, and I full-heartedly believe that, like, because how confusing this is, I think it would have been better at about 150 pages. I think that would have been really solid, and it just was focused on Marie.
Yes,
I think that would have been beautiful. I think it would have been a 5-star read. I think it would have worked. Add some other stuff as like appendix. Add Adam stuff as like interviews, like post or something. I don't know. Rework it, especially since it seemed like I was looking at this and it got rewritten, and I don't know what I'm missing from the original indie publishing, because it didn't just say that it got trad published. It said that it was a rewrite. So I don't know.
So do you think the original got worse?
I don't know if it was worse or if they just changed like SCP to U. I have no idea
I don't
what was
know.
changed, but I think we're gonna have more authors because, right, we have like the author of Alchemized, right? Got a big deal. That was something that was on AO3. We've had other authors that were
I mean,
writing on Wattpad that got published, and there's more stuff that's kind of like getting published
I
that
think
people independently do, and then it's getting picked up traditionally published, and it's not necessarily quality work.
well, how this one is like getting popular too, I think it might start like a whole like SCP phase sort of thing within horror like novels and stuff. And I think that's one thing about like this is like I think I saw people describing it as like horror sci-fi. Horror where? Like
I don't know, because
it's
like in the
not
earlier
really
bits with
scary.
Marie, like there's definitely some like gore, but
Yes.
it's not, it's more like existential.
Yeah.
This is a lot more speculative and reflective, in my opinion, than it is a horror novel. Like, obviously, the sci-fi element is there. I think the
Yes,
sci-fi
it
is
is
pretty
science
strong.
fiction, but I would not classify this as a horror in any way, shape, or form. But I feel like, at least
I
on
just wanted so
Goodreads,
much more. I feel like either it needed to be really shortened or it needed to be made a lot
like
longer,
a full
and the
novel.
characters need to be flushed out.
Well, because it's like he had a really cool idea, but then the idea, his memetic, it did not translate to us, anyways. Because I think I do agree that some elephants, like it felt like an extended like Doctor Who kind of episode, but it's like one of those where I can't like I prefer books that have a nice, satisfying conclusion. You don't get that with this at all. And like I can understand it being fine because I think like it works better with like I Who Have Never Known Men. There's no satisfying conclusion with that, but there is like an actual like conclusion and like it's confusing, but it's not like confusing like the way this is like word vomit in some sections.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it was trying. It was trying hard, but it just
What
bums
did
me
you
out because I
rate
was really
this?
excited. I've been conflicted. I think it might be on my story graph sitting at like a 3 star.
I think I gave it 3.25 star, but like the more I think about it, the less I like it. So I'm like, maybe I go down to a 3 star. Because it's
I
not like
actually I haven't rated it yet, so I don't know what I'm gonna end up.
because it's not like I hated it either. Like I read it pretty fast. Like I was like I slowed myself down to wait for Mariah because I was like I could finish this. Like it reads really quick, which is fine. But it's just like it's also like it's one of those books where I felt like I was reading more than I was comprehending.
Yeah, and not in like a Dostoevsky kind. Like it's
No,
just like
it's just like
the
I
way
don't think it
I
made
think it's
sense.
honestly like the I don't know how you can have a non-linear storytelling, but you don't have really explicit context clues to give me an idea of like when this is happening. I also don't know when this was taking place like in the world until I
Yeah,
like looked it up. And it's like over the course of, I think it starts in the 1970s because then it's like
well,
in
because
2015 because she's like 50.
yeah, well, because I know like the anti-memetics, like they go back to all the way like 1945 because that's whenever they're talking about like World War II and stuff specifically, and they do their first bomb or whatever. I don't know. It was a really weird novel. Something I was gonna say, but I forgot.
I do like it begging the question of like, because they wanted to defeat Nazism, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
obviously like that didn't work. They know it didn't work. So it shows that like, yeah, like I feel like it's this and reading Fahrenheit 451 at the same time was like a really good pair up because you can't just like destroy an ideology. You have to do it on like I literal, you can't just like burn all the books and get rid of all the information, but you actually need to like teach people how to like think
Mm-hmm.
for themselves and like critical thinking, which is why like in like after revolutions we talk about this all the time, like people like literacy rates, like teaching people how to
Skyrocket
read, not just like read words on a page, but like really
comprehension.
think and
Yeah.
engage with the material that you're consuming is such an integral part of having a successful revolution. And I know that might ruffle some people's feathers because they'll be like, actually, it wasn't successful because they still had elements of capitalism. But, like, given what was fucking happening in the world, like, they did a really good job trying to withstand, like, Western powers.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that they were successful in their efforts. I'm sure we don't have global communism, so technically, yeah, they didn't succeed in that regard. However, we have a lot of shit to do in the imperial core to make sure that it's successful elsewhere.
Yes.
So you can't kill the idea. It's education. Like, education is like the biggest fucking forefront, because the people that are going to be hindering any of this, and the same thing with like the anti-memetics, is they're like, we're trying to wipe the memory from everyone. Like, that was like the thing, but then it doesn't, because people, like, humanity is still trying to get through it. So had they opened up this SCP foundation to the public and ran it like horizontally or something, or like implemented some sort of like democratic centralism where they were able to let the public know, but they're like, the public can't even know what's going on because it's too crazy. It's silly. I don't know. Maybe it's because we're Hulakian, so again, we did have like this whole experience.
Like, I've already done
this
before when I was 13.
I was like,
but what even this reminded me of
here.
too, like, not that Mariah's seen this, but if anybody listening has seen The Sheep Detectives, that new movie that just came out, like, there's like a theme within The Sheep Detectives, because like it does discuss like loss a lot, but like what the sheeps do whenever something bad happens, what they would do, like, as a flock, they're sheeple, so they would just be like, let's forget this. And so then, like, as a group, they would choose to forget things that happen, and then like throughout the movie it discusses how like forgetting the worst things that happen to you isn't beneficial either to society or to your own personal growth, because then if there's no memory, there's no reason for doing it all.
That is so interesting, because in that nonfiction book I've read last month, Love Machines by James Muldoon, he talks about why, like, the utility of these death bots, where people are creating them to like embody their dead relatives. So like some people are signing up to have like all of their text and shit imported in so they can get all of their mannerisms down so they can talk to their family members who are deceased. But also it's like, so they don't have to experience grief, because one of the guys that like created, he's like, it's the worst feeling ever is grief, so like we need to ascend beyond that. So I'm getting my mother cryogenically frozen, and then I'm gonna but I feel like I'm gonna put all of her text messages in here so I can talk to her.
And that's one thing, like, I feel like this novel tries to like discuss grief in that way too, but it does not do a good enough job, because I mean, like, one thing that's so important about grief is the reason why it hurts so bad is because you were so happy at that one point, and then it's like you can't experience grief. Like, you won't be able to experience true happiness unless there was like something to be taken away from you, where it's not going to last forever. So then you cherish that moment, that person, that being more than anything, because it's not forever. Where if you just had Twinkies forever, you're not even going to care for Twinkies anymore, because you just always have that endless supply of it, for example. Like, that's what's so important, is the loss of it. It's not going to be forever. So that's why you cherish what you have, you keep what you have close. And that's like,
it's just like people being
so
scared.
Important.
It's fear. It's very like fear driven. Like, I think fascism especially is like a fear driven ideology by the fascists, because they are afraid of what happens if white people cease to exist. What happens if we have like a homogenous society where everyone is just like mixing and we're accepting, like, what happens? And they, rather than reconciling with that, they're trying to alleviate it by like destroying the thing that they're afraid of. But in reality, you have to overcome your fears. Wow, this is really deep. You gotta overcome your fears. But that's like, it's reality. It's like the human condition. We are going to die someday.
Yes.
Like, and maybe someday humanity will stop to exist. And that's just what it is. We need to just enjoy the time that we have. Mm-hmm. So maybe we shouldn't be raging pieces of fucking shit trying to make the world worse for other people that are different than us. Crazy. Wow. And like, just make the most of it. I just don't get it. Like, I don't see how you can see like the water quality in these cities that are getting these AI data centers, and they're just like, actually, I'm gonna use it to generate my new profile picture on Facebook. Like, that's fucking crazy. Like, you're just normalizing.
I think a lot of it is like selfishness too. And I think the way that American society is built and spread is that, like, you should prioritize yourself being at number one. Your comfortability is the most important thing. So then that's why, like, whenever you're like, hey, maybe don't like use AI, then everyone's like, well, I can do whatever I want. It's a free country where they just view freedom as being whatever their individual person can do rather than what's beneficial to a whole group of people, you know?
I wish they would. See, in my perfect little like communist society, everyone has to take a psychology 101 class and learn like the distinct difference between what's within your best self-interest and what's the difference between being selfish, because those are two very different things.
Yes.
And I think people conflate them because they're like, I use AI because I'm tired and exhausted and all of this, so I'm gonna like do all these things. It's like, well, that's maybe within your best self-interest right now, but ultimately it is like a selfish act if you're using these tools in ways that maybe aren't. Like, I do think using them sparingly, whatever, is fine. There's no way to escape it. Like AI, I'm not being defeatist. It's just involved in everything on social media, to the way technology functions right now, and it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. But under a capitalist society, like, it's not working for our collective interests, right?
Yeah, well, because that's like one thing too. I think it's a lot to do with like liberalism and its idea too, because I think the way, like, whenever like boycotts are a big thing right now, right? Like everybody online's like, hey, don't go to these certain restaurants, stores, whatever. Like, we're trying to do like an organized boycott. But then like on TikTok you'll see it all the time where somebody goes somewhere and they're like, oh, this place is being boycotted, and they're like, well, it doesn't matter what I do, they still make so much money, where they don't, where then at that point it's not like a selfish thing. Whenever it's not, it's just it's infuriating how selfish I think a lot of liberals and conservatives are, to whether or not they want to admit it. But
it's so interesting to like think about that, because one, like, they never have to post. You don't have to fucking post anything online.
literally.
Nobody's holding your. You don't have to express
post
it. Keep
on
that shit to yourself.
TikTok.
There's like definitely instances where like maybe like going like baking the boycott. Like if you are like diabetic and your sugar is super low and you're like, I'm gonna pass out, and the only thing that's close to me is like a McDonald's, so you gotta like take care of it. Whatever, do it. Don't fucking post.
You don't have to tell people
don't
you
go
went
online.
there.
Just be like, you know what? Like, I fucked up on the inside, and like, okay, I'll go
reflect on
do
yourself.
something else.
Donate.
Go
to
donate
something.
$5 to somebody, and like the BDS movement. I don't fucking know, but you don't have to.
You don't have to tell people.
I'm just trying to know. It's so stupid, and it's so funny because it all does circle back to the original comment with the way like liberalism functions as a cover for fascism, which was one of like the beginning like things that like sparked this, where I was like, okay, I think we can like have a conversation, like full circle moment. We did it. I didn't honestly think we would have anything to discuss, because this book was really hard, not to read, but just to think. I was like, we gotta make an hour. How are we gonna make an hour? And,
I do think we went short. A little off the rails a little bit too, where we might have not
just talk about the book.
Whole time. Yeah, maybe this is our least talking about the book episode.
Whatever happened to the guy in the very beginning when nobody can remember him and is ignoring him? Did that ever get? Was that just like a thing?
Yeah, he was relevant throughout it. Stephen Lee or Lee Steven, something like that. He was mentioned again.
I don't remember him at all.
He was mentioned again later on, because like it was like there was like a scene wherever she was like talking to him or whatever, and he had to like stand guard whenever she went down to that room where the certain
SCP, it was that guy.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was like, it's been 9 months
like she's going into the room.
Yeah, but
and it's like
that's the
but also it's like her going into the room because it's anti-memetic resistant.
I guess. Is there anything else you really want to talk about?
Sorry, it's so short. I really okay, we still need to talk about the non-fiction novels that we want to recommend, or any fiction novels that we want to talk about as an alternative, which we kind of did, and I did it in a very heated, passionate way. But Still Life with Bones by Alexa Haggerty is a kind of like memoir / investigative
History.
journalist / history / sociology book about Guatemala and Argentina, which I think you should read. I really enjoyed it. Kristen has also read it, so
Yes. It's fine.
I don't know if you had anything to say.
No.
Recently, Kristen also finished Chaos, which was such a good little moment because it played into this. Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s by Tom O'Neill, which is a very long book. And it is crazy. Like, this man, like, autistically locked in on Charles Manson, and I respect him for it, and I hope he gets some rest.
What do you think he does now that he can't talk about Charles Manson anymore?
I hope he's sitting in the sun and relaxing, because that was a lot. Like, he just had, like, the pictures in that book of everything that he did to collect evidence to disregard Helter Skelter by Steve Bigoli or whatever. Bigossi. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was bald. No offense to bald people. No offense to Nell,
Bald.
In my head, derogatory. Also, there's this book on my TBR that I have seen thrown around, and that is The Devil's Chessboard, Alan Dooley's The CIA and the Rise of America's Secret Government by David Talbot. I have heard a lot of good things about it. I haven't read it for myself, but it is on my TBR, so whenever I can get it. I saw it at Barnes & Noble one time, and I regret not picking it up because I've never seen it again since then.
Dang.
This big bummer. Another book I was thinking about that I think would be good for this is Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti, because people are always asking, like, where to start, and I don't think you could go wrong with a Parenti novel.
Yeah, I agree.
To learn about fascism.
And Red. It's a great one.
It's, like, the only book I think I've read multiple times. I think I've read it 3 or 4 times, and I would read it again.
It's very good.
And then Kristen recommends Dark Matter
by Blake Crouch. It's not nonfiction, it's fiction. But I think I think that's one of those books you're best to go in blind. But so I won't say anything. But I thought it was it was a nice, fun sci-fi read, and I think it does discuss, like, human relationships and love. Don't watch the TV show. The TV show sucks butt. I only watched the first episode after reading the book, and I was like, this is literally not even the book anymore. I'm not watching this. So, because me and Tyler, we both read the book, and we were like, oh, let's watch the TV show. But I was like, I heard the TV show sucks. And we watched the first episode. He's changing everything. Blake Crouch made the TV show, too. But he just, like, ruined his own book. It actually pisses me off the more I think about it. So, I can't talk about it.
And if you want, like, a book that's kind of a non-conventional and also has, like, a bunch of different timelines and different characters, House of Leaves. I talk about it all the time. Fantastic novel. I love it. I loved it. It can be confusing, but I think this was more confusing. So I think if you read this, you can read House of Leaves. It's just written like an academic novel at times. So, like, if you've never read a textbook,
maybe
that's
not.
What it's like. I don't know. Maybe don't pick it up, but I believe in anybody that's watching this. I believe in you.
And so, as we mentioned, this was a book club read, but now, and next month, in June, we're going to be reading Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. So, if you would like to read along with us, our fable is linked below. We be talking in there. And then, next week's episode, we're going to be doing our May reading wrap-up. So, we'll be talking about everything we've read this month. And then, our next book review will be Spread Me by Sarah Gailey.
We're doing a bunch of gay books next month for Pride Month.
June.
I'm very excited for James Baldwin, though. Like, I'm so excited. And I might have to read a bunch of other stuff by James as well, just, like, have my bases covered. I don't know. I'm just so excited.
We will be reading Giovanni's Room earlier than we typically do for our book clubs, too. Usually we read them, like, the last week of the month or so. But this time, we're going to be reading it before the end of the month for once.
Kristen's going on vacation. You better take, like, a vlog. Take your vlogging camera and practice.
Well, that's what Tyler's job is supposed to be, so you better yell at him.
Make sure you have it all. That way you can test it, make sure everything works before.
You tell him. This is not my job, because...
Also, this summer, coming to you, if you live in Ohio, you live in the state of Ohio, if you're going to the Columbus Book Fest.
If you don't live in Ohio, you can live near Ohio. I don't live in Ohio. and I'm still driving up.
Well, I don't live in Ohio either, so I'm flying all the way there.
But
because we're influencers.
We're actual invited creators for the Columbus Book Fest, guys. So, like, we're really official and really famous now. So we will be doing autographs. I'm just kidding. But, like, if anybody wants to say hi to us there, talk to us, we'll sign your
We also have the option. We didn't have to sign anything for this. We have options to interview authors. So if you look through the list and you're like, hey, you should interview this author, I'll do it. I'll make it happen.
If you have anything you want us to ask them specifically, too, like, you need to ask them this.
I'm just honing in on Chris Smalls. Like, that's who I'm gonna find and talk to. Number one. That's like, yep, number one.
I'm sure Sarah Gailey will probably talk to you too, because she's got some left-wing stuff.
I'm really excited. That's the other one that I think I'm most excited for. And also, so Kimberly Crenshaw is going to be there, and I want to ask her if she still stands by her statement about liberalism, but I don't know.
But we don't know because she's a big one too. Where we're not that big guys, so the big boy authors might not talk to us. But I'm sure any of the indie authors or smaller authors probably we could get something going on. But other than that, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or follow us if you're on any other social media podcasting platform. Rate us 5 stars, and thank you, and good night.